Hi, I'm Angie Yingst of the Moon and Stone Healing and Altaview Wellness Center in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm a healer and a tarot teacher and a shamanic practitioner. And I'm here for your June 2020 Earth Medicine and Tarot reading. I've been doing this every month, and I was just smudging with Palo Santo. So if you see smoke, that's what that is. And that's just to clean space and to bring us into an entrainment in this space. Um, June 2020, we're already in it. I just, like, for full disclosure, want to tell you that I recorded this before and didn't talk at all about what was going on in the world. And so a lot of these spaces, these spiritual spaces, the tarot readings, they're very personal. They're about your spiritual work and your transformation. And there's a global element to it. So this is, these readings are about the energy in the world and how we can tap into this. And on the other hand, there's a part of that kind of work that can really bypass the actual feelings and experiences being lived in this moment. So I just want to say that last week, George Floyd was killed by police, which I'm sure most people who are American know that, and maybe people all around the world, which would be wonderful. As a Latinx woman and someone who's committed to social justice, I felt like I didn't want to be one of those spiritual teachers and tarot readers that just talks about, like, calling in abundance and blah, 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 without talking about, like, the shit that's going down. So I just want to say Black Lives Matter to me. And if you can, um, do what you can right now. I don't have, like, I have to stay in my lane because that's not what I do for a living. What I do for a living is help people find peace from within. And right now, like, I also want to say that I think anger is important. It's an important emotion. It's not, I don't demonize it. I think it's a really important thing. I also understand anger. I understand violence. I felt that, and I struggle with anger. That's one of my go-to emotions. So I completely understand anger, and I don't want to demonize it at all. I'm here today to give this energy reading, which I always do, in different ways. So I just want to say that I'm gonna talk about the energy right now, and I don't want that to sound like spiritual bypassing of what's actually going on. So apply this in the ways you can, and I'm going to be talking about it. So for Black sisters and brothers who are coming in and watching this video, I'm standing with you, spiritually, energetically, holding space for you. And if there's anything that you want our community to be doing for you, um, share it with us, if you can, if that's not too much emotional labor. But what we're doing here today is talking about personal journey work, personal soul work. And a lot of that for me has been about social justice and finding peace around the ways people of color are treated. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I just wanted to start by saying that because I didn't want me to go on and have you think that, like, I'm totally oblivious to what's going on. No, I'm following along. I'm watching. If you're following my social media, I'm blacked out right now to amplify Black voices, and I'm going to stay that way for the rest of the week. But I encourage you to amplify Black voices too. Right now, we're going to talk about the tarot for June, and I'm going to stop talking about this. Again, like, I'm trying to stay in my own lane too. It's not always easy, especially with privilege. it's really easy to not acknowledge that that privilege gives me the power to walk in and out of the conversation. So I'm just honoring that. So that privilege exists. So let's talk about some of the astrology going on, because the anger and the things going on. There's Mars is pretty loud right now. It's square with Venus retrograde, which Venus retrograde is about. Well, Venus is about relationships and love and connection and intimacy, and emotional intimacy. Usually, it's dealing with one person, your relationships, and that is not excluding people who are in poly relationships. Obviously, it's about all the relationships. Sorry. So those relationships, when it's retrograde, we're starting, you struggle, and I talked about this a little last month, but you're struggling. Venus retrograde struggles with the interpersonal dynamics, with the dynamics in romantic relationships, especially in the ways that they touch upon the intimacy issues that came up in childhood. Your first romantic relationship was with your parents. So think about it that way, because our inner child often plays out, and we can get easily triggered right now. And maybe you can think of it more, instead of saying easily triggered, part of the energy of Venus retrograde is to have other people trigger you so you can do that work, so you can see what's going on there. So these retrograde periods, they often are useful. They're not fun. They're kind of, they're difficult, but they're useful in identifying. So one thing I like to say a lot is you're always on a fact-finding mission, and that fact-finding mission is to find out where your triggers are and how to work with them, change them, honor them. And it's okay not to always change the trigger. We can't undo pain that happens, sometimes pre-verbal, right? So we can't change that, but we can identify it earlier and not act out from it. So the Venus retrograde is happening, and it's continuing on. Let me see, I wrote everything down till June 25th. So the other thing happening in June is June 5th, which is Friday. There is a full moon, and it is also an eclipse. So that's going to be interesting. Eclipses often bring in shadow stuff too. So remembering this is going to be hard energy. So the full moon is in Sag, which is a fire sign, but a dynamic, creative fire sign. Love my Sag people. So just knowing that this is going to be kind of a tough week. And then later in the month, Mercury goes into retrograde. I have that June 18th to July 12th. So, and then there's another eclipse on June 20th, and that one's going to be particularly beautiful. So just hold on to your seat. It's going to be quite a ride in June. So let me talk about some of the energy coming in. The card I pulled for June is the Fool. And the Fool is the divine child of the major arcana. It's the 0 card. And that 0 means it's not numbered. So in numerology, we often like kind of go into the numerology of them. But because the Fool is a 0, we often see that 0 as like the Ouroboros, the circle, the Enzo, the and what do all those mean? The completion, right? Like honoring the wholeness of everything. It's a God number. It's the universal number. It's just this 0 is everything and nothing. So you can add zeros to the end of a number and create infinity, and you can have 1 0 and it means nothing. So we have the all and the everything in the Fool. It's kind of like that great I am card where we're just honoring the divine within us. And the Fool obviously has a lot of that connection with just the idea of being foolish. And that's not really what happens in the tarot with this card. What happens with this card is the divine child is the trusting one. maybe somewhat naive, but he's off on his journey and he's just trusting that everything's going to be okay. I was just talking to somebody about that awful phrase, everything's going to be okay. Even though I have a big sign on my wall that says that everything is going to be okay. But the idea here is that God has your back, the divine has your back, Great Spirit has your back, however you want to say it. Maybe your native wisdom has your back. You can think of it that way, or your higher self, or whatever, however you think of that. It has your back. So the Fool is off on the journey. So we're in new beginnings here in June, and I need to remind us that the Fool doesn't mean that we're being foolish. The new journey is important. It's all about persevering. The Fool's also the artist. So this is a thing that we need to talk about too, because the rose really symbolizes kind of that beauty and art that comes through a lot. You'll see it throughout the tarot. I'm trying to think who else. The Nine of Pentacles, she has a lot of flowers and abundance around her. She's often seen as the artist. So thinking about how, we can be offering of ourselves right now, putting ourselves out there. The Fool comes in to say like, oh, I can offer myself with my writing, with my artwork, with my speaking, with acting, however it comes out in those creative ways. Sometimes it's just creative ways of looking at things and creative ways of doing things a little differently. So the Fool's kind of that important first step card. And we're taking a first step this month. So take it for yourself, whatever that is. Sometimes the Fool isn't as planned out as you want. You're thinking you should be. So sometimes the Fool says, okay, like, for example, say you want to have a baby and you're like, I have to have $30,000 in the bank. I have to have this, I have to have that, and then I'll have a baby. Well, shit happens. So the Fool's basically like, just do it. Just go out. It'll all work out. It'll all kind of fall into place once you start. And this can be about business. This is something that recently happened to me in May. I showed something that I was working on my proxy board to a class I was teaching. Everybody's like, do you sell that? Do you sell that? And I was like, I don't know. Do I sell it? Maybe I will. I'll just put it up and see what happens. And suddenly I have this thriving proxy board business. So just remembering that you don't have to have all the details worked out, just offering of yourself and willing to be walking on that journey is important. Also important to remember, like when we're talking about some of the social justice work, some of us are boots on the ground people. They're the warriors, the foot soldiers. They're out there in protest. They're out there, getting hurt, getting arrested, doing all of that stuff. There are other needs there. So think creatively. If you can't be a foot soldier, think creatively on ways that you can walk into this journey and trust that all of your gifts are going to be put to use in different ways. And that sounds funny, but it's really important to know that each person has a role, right? Like we all aren't gifted in the same exact way. And that's, if we believe in our spirit being connected with all other things, then we know that in this great ecosystem of being connected to all other things, we have a place, right? And our gifts are going to be tapped in, and we're going to understand them and how they work with everything. And again, when I say stuff like that, then I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of things that don't fit into that ecosystem neatly, and that makes sense to me. So just knowing that, it's a tricky road to walk down when I start talking like that. So this is what is hard about spirit and social justice, is that there is injustice. And what does that mean? So just knowing that the Fool trusts the path and his path, and you can trust your path too. Even if you're really confused and you're really upset and you're really introverted, you're really like it's hurting your heart very deeply. just know that what's coming through for you is that you can still walk, you know, that you'll figure it out. Sometimes you don't have to have the full picture to know where you fit in. Just start walking, just say yes, just hold boundaries that are important, but say yes to things you can do. So that's, I think, where the Fool's coming in. Now let's talk about some of the earth medicine. And here's the other part is that I often pull these rebel cards. I love the rebel cards. And the one I pulled for this month is You Do You. Okay. You do you. And the back says, stop trying to change people. That shit never works. So just knowing that we all have to show up differently. Okay. We can't all show up as leaders. Some of us are followers. That's cool. You know, some of us are listeners. Some of us are sharers of information. Some of us need to just, you know, share that. And I know, like, there are my people that I go to because they share things that are meaningful to me, that make sense. Kira, I'm calling you out, girl. That really talk my language. So those people have their role, and that's really important because they're spreading out. That's what networking is about. Okay. So I want to say that in May, we talked about having a lot of watery emotional energy coming in, and water came through again with the mystical shaman deck as it's continuing. I don't think this is going to continue the whole month. I'm feeling more fire energy coming in later. That water, you can kind of think of energies, because obviously the energy in the universe doesn't pay attention to like the calendar month, which is totally made up, you know, counting of time. But so think of it like this, like there's a you know, a spiral coming in like this of water, and there's fire coming out like that. Okay. And we are moving into midsummer in the northern hemisphere. For those in the southern, you're moving more into you know, you're moving into winter, so it's a different energy. That's very earthy energy. But so that fiery energy is coming back out, and I'm feeling the fire, maybe because I'm just in the northern hemisphere, I don't know, but I'm feeling that there is fire coming in. So we're gonna continue working with this water and riding the waves of that high emotionality. Again, Venus is in retrograde, so that makes sense to me. We were working with frog and being super sensitive with the, you know, the skin absorbs a lot. So remembering that the sensitivity is something to just pay attention to, and just knowing, like, once we work with that, knowing that we are sensitive right now doesn't mean that it's bad or good, just that, hey, I have to adjust my behavior based on that. So that's, I mean, this is where I'm talking about with privilege, like we get to walk in and out. So if you have the ability to step out and take care of your needs, that's important. Even as a protester, even as you know, a black person in this country, and everything fired up, how are your needs getting met, and how can you take care of the self, the soul, right now, because we are ultra sensitive, and that's not a bad thing. Somebody, you know, whenever I hear overly sensitive, I'm like, it's not a thing. It's not a thing to be overly sensitive. It is an insult to call somebody overly sensitive. What we actually are sensitive, and whether we allow ourselves to emote or not is what sounds overly, right? So that's my interpretation of that. So the plant medicine coming in is poppy, which is the dream, and also have a stone. I pulled the same card, so they're both dream cards, with Sugilite. So poppy and Sugilite are wonderful. Now let's talk about poppy first. Poppy is obviously the plant that makes opium. So I'm not telling y'all to go get opium, but you can use poppy seeds, both in cooking and, you know, making teas out of poppy seeds is wonderful. You can do like a golden milk with turmeric, ginger, honey. Use poppy seeds in there. You can put it in cacao also for heart opening. But it helps with visioning. Okay. So especially if you're not sure what this path, even how to even take the first step on the path, which path is that, you know, is that a creative path? Is that a, social justice path? Is that a this path? Is that that path? The dreaming and visioning is part of how we know where to go. We follow that. So we trust that wisdom that comes from dream world, from journey world, from our meditation world. So the dreaming is really important. Taking in some of those dream ideas, the visioning ideas. So you can use, again, like you can use Poppy, but when you're using it, you're just recording and making sure that you know your dreams are important and directing you. Okay, so right now dreams are going to be really heightened. I don't see two of them coming in together and just say, oh, I'm going to ignore that energy. It's important. So paying attention to dreams. Keeping a dream journal can be really good. And what that is you just write down your dreams in the morning when you remember them. And, you know, a great way to start is write them down whether you remember them or not. So even if you don't remember it, just saying, yeah, I didn't remember this dream. I know I dreamt, I don't remember it. Or I just closed my eyes and woke up. Writing that in the journal gets you in the habit of writing in the journal every morning and then moving on. Another great dream herb is mugwort. So you can use mugwort and poppy together. But poppy is going to be wonderful for that synchronicity, or I shouldn't say synthesis. I don't know. They synthesize well with golden milk. It synthesizes well with cacao. So both good plant medicine to bring in and call in for. Cacao is kind of energizing, so you might want to do cacao in the morning with poppy and then go into journey if you have the time and space to do that. Not everybody has time to meditate. We're working people. And then at night you can use like golden milk to kind of get you into a nice calmer state, and then using poppy before sleep. So I talked about Sugilite. Here's a nice piece of Sugilite. Expensive piece. Sugilite's really expensive. This piece was about, I think, $90 at the Tucson Gem Show. So you're not going to find big pieces like this if you're looking for Sugilite, but it doesn't matter because it's high vibration and you don't need a big one. Sugilite runs the gamut of colors. It goes from this deeper purple to magenta. And Sugilite, these are Naisha Asyan's first deck of cards. The Crystal Allies, I think that's what they're called. Oh boy, I should have looked that up before. Sorry about that, guys. But Naisha Asyan's cards, I believe they're out of print, and so I apologize, but I love them so much, it's hard not to use it. So Sugilite's a wonderful, wonderful ally for dreaming, for journey work, for meditation, for psychic work. It's also incredibly protective. So if you're looking for something, like I wear Sugilite every time I do a healing. So I tend to wear it a lot. You can put on the third eye. It just opens all those channels. And then it's very protective. And part of that is those black streaks are what kind of grounds it. And it has a really nice energy. Oh, I mean, this is, if I had a favorite, I don't. Chrysocolla, Sugilite, both my favorites, but Sugilite is really, really awesome that it's coming through for June. We're also still working with Amazonite. This came in again. So Amazonite is, and Naisha, I should say Samaya Astor, she changed her name. So Samaya's insight there is personal truth. So Amazonite is a very feminine stone. It's a powerful stone. It is really wonderful for stating and honoring your personal truth. So it's good for holding boundaries, for speaking out, for being active and activated. So if you are someone who is out there protesting or using your voice in other ways to protest and talk, Amazonite's wonderful. And this particular piece is Amazonite with Smoky. They grow together. And you can use both. The Smoky is incredibly protective too. Plus this is holding boundaries. Plus this is speaking your truth, and it's speaking feminine truth. So better for women than for men, but men can absolutely use this. It's that kind of tough mama energy, very strong. So I love it. It's great that we're continuing to use some of the stones from May. I love that the energy isn't done yet with that. So bringing in Amazonite is important. And then the last stone ally is clear quartz. So if you don't have a clear, this is for clarity. This is for knowing. Okay. Knowing and being really clear, both with your words, with your actions, and also what you're bringing in, hearing the truth of it. So if you don't have a personal quartz that you work with all the time, I would consider getting one if you're into this work. This is my stone that I hold in every tarot reading and healing. Um, Clear quartz, you can direct energy, so you can open chakras, close chakras, um, activate grids. You can use it for meditation, for clearing any of the chakras, for opening them up. It amplifies energy, it stores energy, it's programmable. Clear quartz is just the best ally, and every shamanic practitioner should have one. So what we do is we tend to use one for everything, and it's kind of our ally, and we go in and journey with it. We ask it how it wants to be used. Not all quartzes want to be used for all things, so ask it. And this one said it wanted to be my personal assistant when I'm doing my work. So that's what this one is, and I use it for everything. So you can find yourself a clear quartz. It's great. So we're talking about Sugilite, Amazonite, and clear quartz, and then the poppy, and then the animal medicine that came through is tiger. Oh boy, tiger. I know that's fierce energy, and that's good. Tiger walks, and I want to say in the shadows, but it's not in the shadows. He both embodies shadow and light. Okay, so walking through, paroling perimeters, checking things. He's a sentry, right? He knows what's going on. He doesn't have to tell everybody what's going on. In fact, he's quite silent until he isn't, until it's too late. So Tiger's creative. This is some of the fiery energy that we're bringing in. So I think working with Tiger this month is really important. He can be an ally for any social justice work. He works in the solar plexus power area, and really important. You can work with him for a dismemberment. So Tiger, any of the apex predators are going to be able to devour you in journey work. And that might sound shocking to someone who doesn't do shamanic journey work, but it really is about rebirth. So Tiger is wonderful for that. And so very protective. Any of the predators are going to have that fierceness to them, and that's needed. So just think it's important to remember, big cats are great allies, and we can call them in and work with them specifically. Tiger also works with lunar energy and night energy, and that's important too, because I think it's important to know that Tiger works with these cycles. Okay, very kind of, I would say, feminine energy. The tiger kind of comes through as, because the female tiger is the hunter, and so we're watching some of that too. I'm not even sure if I'm right about that. The female tiger being the hunter. I'm guessing on that. So, but knowing that a lot of shamanic practitioners and people who work with animal medicine use tiger for feminine energy, and that lunar night energy. So the wonderful thing about working with tiger is that you can be working and asking tiger also to help protect the way your energy is, people coming into your energy. So tiger can be fierce, and it's not afraid. So it deals with that courage too. I know lion is also a courageous ally, but tiger is. And so thinking about how we see tiger in the periphery often, like, you're not going to see tiger running at you. You're going to see it, catch the glimpses in the periphery. And sometimes when we're working with tiger, we're asked to kind of watch before we attack, to be silent and take it in and then move forward. When we have to move forward and make that leap of faith, like the Fool's asking us to, the Tiger can be an ally with that. So so that's your earth medicine reading for the month. So the allies we're working with is Sugilite, Amazonite, and clear quartz. If you can get all these, that's great. If not, that's all right too. We're working with Tiger, we're working with Poppy, and then the Fool is coming in. So a lot of times the Fool brings some joy. So I'm kind of hoping that we can feel some of that joy as we move forward. So for those of you who are my membership members, I'll be doing your journey this month with Tiger, and then we'll be giving full moon readings. They'll be coming about the 5th, the 4th or the 5th, and then new moon is I guess the 18th, or I gotta look it up. I don't remember what the new moon was this month. So so anyway, love you guys, and let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll be back next month.